the younger women are in the front and the older women will be in the back. Obviously, he means for there to be women in the mosque, right? That's what the Prophet ﷺ said in the authentic hadith. So some of these cultures where we're trying to take women out of the equation, although technically speaking, the hadith mentions rajulun qalbuhu muta'alliqun bil masjid, but technically speaking, the word rajul can be also including mar'ah. Is that acceptable? No, because the word rijalun sadaqu ma ahadullah alayhi, this ayah in the tafsir by Fakhruddin al-Razi, one of our great scholars, of the ayah in Surah Al-Ahzab that says there are a group of rijal that they were righteous and pious and they fulfilled the truth of their faith and their character, and they were obviously awaiting this day that we're all preparing ourselves for. He said, هذا يشمل الرجال والنساء بمعنى رجولة. The meaning of رجل here, رجال, it means people of great maturity and strong footing in life. It's a general linguistic meaning rather than the technical gender specific meaning that is common to the word. Because he said there's no way you can take Aisha and Salama and these out of the ayah and its implied meaning. If you took them out of it, you would be negating their life of devoted certainty. So many women companions of the Prophet ﷺ that were so righteous and proved themselves. So that is one of the tidbits that our scholars mentioned about that. So I'm translating in all of these that say rajul as someone, meaning someone of great maturity and wisdom, because obviously, as the Quran is very clear in multiple places, the believing men, the believing women, the fasting men, the fasting women, men and women are equal as spiritual entities in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the same exact potential and ability to worship and become on the highest level. So why the scholars took the opinion that I mentioned about women being highly encouraged, if not obligated, to pray the Jama'ah, at least in the mosque, they said the hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ was talking to a woman and said it's better to pray in your house, he said either that woman has some specific reality at her home that the Prophet ﷺ knows, or she has small children that might be a problem for all of the people to pray in the mosque, because we know that the Prophet ﷺ, when a child was crying, he would shorten his prayer and hurry it up, which would be a hardship to those that came to have a more calm, laid back, tranquil, peaceful embracing of the prayer. Right? So that's the meaning of that. So the next characteristic or category of people is two people who met for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and built a strong relationship for the love of God, for the sake of God alone. And then they parted according to that same love. Now somebody might say, okay, well, we're all in that, inshallah. So that's a good optimistic way of looking at it. But why is this being said? This hadith is all about purification of the self. The reason it's being said is because most people, why do they form relationships with others in this world? Because of worldly interest. Networking, right? Isn't it? Yeah. I mean, this is people, okay, if I know that person, I might be able to come up this way or that way. They might be able to give me this or help me in that. Or if that person, they're going to be able to do this or that for me, I need to have this person's number and so forth. This person I'll have close on Facebook for this reason or that reason, right? Yeah, so this is the sad reality that the world historically is the way it works, People want to have connections with, what was it George Bush said from the Fahrenheit 9/11? He said, what is it? He said can't remember, but he was at a fundraiser for the Republican Party, and he said that we're the haves, not the have-nots, right? Yeah. So So he's like, we're the haves, and he was talking about that they're all the rich people that are all connected. They don't love each other for anything except for how can they make each other more powerful and wealthy, and they will stab each other in the back at the quickest opportunity that they can, right? So that's the reason why most people get together in this world. So what we're being told is that when people love each other for a pure iman, I love you, Abdul Alim, because you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you love His Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. I want to love you as a result of that. That is the meaning that we're talking. So then you're willing to sacrifice yourself and your interests for the other person. That's what it's love in the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is about. Right? And so then it says, and then they leave, they part ways in the sake of Allah. Because why do most people part ways? Because they love each other? or I hate you, you know what you said, I will never talk to you again. Right? Yeah, you see? So the hadith is talking about a selflessness and removing oneself from these worldly interests and attachments and an egotistical interaction with others. Rather, it's all based upon a sincerity to the Most High. Right? Having that connection to the divine. So what's being said here is that the people who will make it through this life in happiness and goodness with their true faith, on the Day of Judgment, they will be removed from all struggles there as well, because their life was for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the next category of people is a man who find himself in a situation where there is a beautiful woman of high stature and nobility or wealth, and they find themselves in a situation in which they could embrace each other as married couples should. And so that man is in that situation, as the narrators of commentary mention, and before it gets to any sinful level, but there is so much potential and ease for them to get into that sinful situation, he steps back and says, Inni akhafullah. I fear God before getting involved in this situation with you. So the brothers obviously recognize more how difficult of a situation this would be than the sisters, because of a difference in the way your mind works in this situation. So what we're being told is that yes, everybody would want to have this desire fulfilled, and that is a reality that men are struggling with from the beginning, right? And we were told to discipline ourselves according to the rules of chastity and modesty that have been revealed to us. So some guy who gets himself in that situation with a beautiful woman, and he wants it so bad, but then he remembers his Lord. In this situation, they've reached such a high level of God consciousness, God fearing thinking, that they're able to go against the most basic natural desires that they were tested and built with, right? And so that level of devotion, that level of attachment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more than your material worldly interests, is a means by itself in one circumstance. The scholar said if this happened one time, then that person would be absolved from that situation. Now that being said, the hadith could be flipped around, because although the general reality of women is that they're more in control of this situation than men are, psychologically speaking, if she was one of those who felt inclined as well and then pulled back as a result of this, then she would also fall under the meaning mentioned in the hadith. The sixth category of people is the person who gives so freely and regularly and sincerely that their left hand does not know what their right hand has given. So this is of course a metaphor, because the left and the right are obviously generally around each other, right? So that this person is so careful about giving that it was like the left didn't even know what the right was doing. What it means is that that person, wherever they go, whenever they find any cause, they give. And they don't report it to anyone, right? It's so good. It feels good. You want to, I just saw this homeless guy and took care of him, right? That's something that maybe you're not even mura'i. Maybe you're not a show off. Maybe you just want to spread the good and encourage others. But the real, true, pious person of generosity, of philanthropy, this person of humanity, is someone who goes out seeking out causes to give, and they don't tell anybody about it. They're very secretive about it. They give so much wealth. As a matter of fact, I was in South Florida, and I became aware of an amazing circumstance in which a guy gave, because there's two people in this community that give, to be honest with you. One of them, his name is basically on a big plaque in front of everyone, right? And the other one, nobody knows. I mean, some people were actually accusing this guy as, why didn't he ever give it to fundraisers? And every fundraiser he gives like $20,000. Yeah. But he's not saying that. Now, I'm not encouraging causing a big problem for the fundraisers, because if all of us try to follow that route, there would be moot. It would not be a point of need right there. But obviously, we need to encourage people to do that. And inshallah, you prepare your heart and your mind, especially that moment before you make that statement, that you reallocate your intention and your sincerity, that I'm doing this for the well-being of this community because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has inspired me to do this. You make sure that you do that, otherwise you'll be wasting your money, right? Or you won't waste it, others will benefit from it, but you, on the Day of Judgment, will see nothing as a result of doing something because, oh, look at the generous guy who gives all his money. Yeah, this is a very dangerous situation, so we always need to prepare ourselves for that. So generosity was a very much competitive thing in the life of the Prophet ﷺ. You all know the stories. You have Abu Bakr coming and giving all his wealth, and then Omar comes, yeah, I've got all of this money, I'm going to give you half of everything I own, which technically speaking was about 3-4 times more than what Abu Bakr gave. But because it's from his side, half of his wealth, and Abu Bakr gave everything. So then he asked, what did Abu Bakr give? And he said, he gave me everything he has. He said, how's he going to take care of his family now? He was so angry. He said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to take. Now, Imam Muhammad Ghazali and Ihya Ulumuddin clarified, we do not take this as an example because then we'll be all poor right, on the street in box. He's like, this is a special reality of the most special of people after the Prophets alayhim as-salatu was-salam. This is a person whose his iman is in one scale and all of the other people is in one other scale, and he's going to outweigh them. That's Siddiq is a category, it's a title that is not just thrown around. It means someone of truth and honesty and sincerity that's lifestyle is recognized by that. And so we should do whatever we can to get close to that like Omar was, but obviously we will not reach the level of Abu Bakr. And we weren't meant to. He's a great example that we should try to emanate. In some cases I would say that would be from the specific realities of Abu Bakr. Other cases would be something that we should do everything we can to sacrifice in order to put ourselves in such a position. So the giving is something, this generosity, this charitable attitude is something that we should all be philanthropists. As Muslims, we should all be seeking to find ways to give. We should never have this, I mean, if we're trying to buy a house, okay, we say, I need to buy a house, so I'm going to save this money. But you don't think that I can't touch it at all. So I can just take a little bit here and there whenever I find a cause. And then I buy the house, now you feel much more comfortable. Muslims should not, the Prophet ﷺ, when he died, he was very concerned about some money that wasn't distributed, right? And he started commending Aisha, what about this and give this to that. The Prophet ﷺ died and actually still was, had a shield in somebody else's. He had done a pawning with a Jewish guy, right? He was still, he was still needing to pay off some money when he was dying. Now, it doesn't mean that it's wrong to have wealth, because Abdurrahman bin Auf radiallahu anhu was a great companion. And, they spent a week with picks dividing up his gold to his family and relatives when he died. But the best example from the companions and the Prophet ﷺ would be that of someone who, I'm not saying you have to be broke, but you keep what you need for an emergency, and all of the excess would be used to promote well-being in society. And we should prefer projects that will be more profound. Like the whole story, like what do they say? Teach somebody to fish, don't give them a fish you caught, right? You teach them how to fish, and they don't need your help anymore, right? So we were talking about that one time when there was a brother who actually was raising money for Africa, and he was talking about how the missionary work that the Christian community has done over the last few decades has basically caused millions and millions of Muslims to turn to Christian, and they're dying as Christian now, who were Muslims. So this is a very serious reality. So I guess I was being confrontational as we tried to reform that part of ourselves as much as possible, but I asked him, now another guy is supposed to come next week for Palestine, right? Because this was actually after the big incursion that happened in Nablus and Jenin, right? It was like about 7 years ago. And so I was like, so those people are dying as Muslim, right? So I think we should probably support your cause more than that cause, because those people are dying as Muslim, as shuhada, going to Jannah. The people we're trying to raise money for you are leaving the deen, right? And everybody said, he just attacked Philistine right in our presence. That's how some people would spin this, but I don't think any of those people are here right now. So we're talking Quran and Sunnah, This is it. This is pure Islam. No emotions, no politics involved. We just, right from there, we remove ourselves from worldly interests and attachments and emotional influence, and we say, what does Islam say? That's a very valuable point that we all have to get to, inshallah, if we're going to succeed as an ummah. So that is that category. The last category is probably the most significant with regards to spiritual status, and that is رَجُلٌ ذَكَرَ رَبَّهُ خَالِيًا فَأَفَاضَتْ عَيْنَاهُ. That somebody who is in seclusion, away from others, and they're thinking about God and their relationship with Him. Maybe they're remembering the beauty of what He's done for them. Maybe they're remembering their sins and how He's going to forgive them, and they're fearful and they just overflow with tears. That was a reality that some of the Prophet ﷺ, it was narrated on multiple occasions that Aisha radiallahu anha, she wakes up and then he's just praying there, and his whole entire area right here and his beard is soaked. He's just crying, right? Now, if he's a false prophet, why is he all by himself, staying up all night, standing there, crying? Does that reflect that? Now, that's obviously somebody who's deeply moved by the reality that they are overcome by in this revelation that's come to him and his recognition of all of the implications therein. And so that's something that we should come to. We live in a fast lane world. We live in a world filled with secularism, liberalism, where it's just like, okay, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I got to do this. But the question is, how much time do we actually... So we're not promoting some of the groups of the spiritual progress and growth. They've developed a system where they call it khalwa. They say just leave for weeks on end. That's not Islam. None of the Prophet nor his companions, none of them did such a thing. But to spend here and there 30 minutes, an hour, it was the example of the Prophet ﷺ and his companions, and that was a spiritual process of true unity in purpose, in life force with the Creator of the universe that surrounds us. And so this is the state of being we should all aspire to achieve, in which we are right there feeling the presence of divine influence, feeling a weakness and a shortcoming from our side, feeling the beauty, having a realization of Creator and creation and the complex, vast systems that is functioning in our presence and taking care of our well-being while we don't even know it, right? I mean, if you start to get into the way our bodies are functioning, the way there's good bacteria and bad bacteria and white blood cells and all of the things that are going on right now in this room that are the blessing of the Creator of all of us. To come to that conclusion, to come to that place of realization and recognition is something that should move us to tears, should move our hearts and our minds to tears. And when we get to that place, then we know that we are doing something in this life to fulfill our purpose, right? So, because we have this greedy self-serving mentality, some of the youth, they ask and they say, why does it say that people and jinn were created to worship? Why do we have to worship Him? It's not just worship. It's a full servitude. It's an attachment of my soul that came from my Creator, and my whole entire existence and functioning is a blessing from my Creator. It's about a realization of that. It's about a recognition and an embracing process of that. And when somebody comes to that, then they are moved to an emotional state that would bring forth those tears. If we don't go through our life without any tears having been shed in this recognition, then we really need to rethink what we're doing here in this life in preparation for the eventual reality that we're all facing. So that is the final characteristic of the people who are shaded on the Day of Judgment. It was mentioned in an authentic hadith that for those righteous people, the Day of Judgment will seem like an hour of a comfortable day between Dhuhr and Asr. That the whole entire Day of Judgment will feel and and seem like it was just an hour in a nice, breezy, shaded day. That's how it will feel for the believer. That's how I pray it feels for us, because we know from the other hadiths that it's 50,000 years is how it feels for the people. That's why the Aisha radiallahu anha, she said, when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Man nuqisha udhib," "Man nuqisha udhib," that whoever on the day of judgment is having an interaction, a discussion, or an argument with their Lord and the angels based upon what they see in their book of deeds, they will say, "Ma li hadha al-kitab la yughadiru saghiratan wala kabira." Right? This book has all this stuff. I didn't think that all that was going to be of such impact, of such seriousness. Right? And they'll start to argue, and it will be said, "Look, you got the instant replay right there. This is not the old days before the modern technology. It's right there. There is no denying it, no escaping it. That's what you did by your actions, by your choice, after you inspired and innately brought to a reality of recognition of your purpose, of your reality of how you function." Right? You chose to lead a lifestyle other than that. I guided you away from it. وَهَدَيْنَاهُ النَّجْدَيْنِ. All human people are guided to know that's right, that's wrong. Then when they know revelation, they know for sure this is the detail of why and how that is right and that is wrong. So to continue to lead a lifestyle after that is total rebelliousness and treachery to whom? Allah? No, to yourself. وَمَنْ عَمِلَ سَيْئًا فَعَلَيْهَا. Whoever did evil, it's against their self. Right? مَنْ عَمِلَ صَالِحًا فَلِنَفْسِهِ وَمَنْ أَسَاءَ فَعَلَيْهَا. Whoever did righteousness is for your benefit. Whoever did evil, it's against you. He doesn't need anything. هُوَ غَنِيٌّ حَمِيدٌ. He is totally not in any need of any of us. He has blessed us with this presence. He's blessed us with this life. He's telling us, here's the revelation. Prepare for meeting me so that I can embrace you for an eternity of love and compassion. But since you as a nature, as a human, have owned this responsibility of this trust, this right and wrong, this amanatul kubra, as it's mentioned in Surah Al-Ahzab, that's your nature. So here's the keys, here's the tool, here is the map back to me, safe and sound, after you took on that responsibility and this life that you're living. That's our talk, inshallah ta'ala. If we have any questions, inshallah ta'ala, we will try to take those. Anybody with any questions? Okay, alhamdulillah. Jazakum Allahu khairan. Subhanak Allah bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta.